Good morning. This will begin the Calcasieu Parish public briefing for Tropical Storm Marco and Tropical Storm Laura, which of course are currently out in the tropics, possible threats to areas along the Gulf of Mexico. My name is Brian Beam, Calcasieu Parish Administrator, and we will hear from a few speakers today. Lately, you've seen us more, of course, on the COVID-19 concerns, and those are still out there. Today, however, we need to talk about a couple of storms that may impact us, specifically one, more Laura than Marco. But we have an update from the Weather Service, which we'll lead off in a minute. Then we'll hear from some of our emergency officials and elected officials as well, and hopefully give some good guidance for the public. It's always important, though, to know what we're dealing with, and so we are fortunate to have Andy Patrick. And Andy is the meteorologist in charge here at the National Weather Service in Lake Charles, and he's been great, the whole office has, in keeping us informed. And we'll ask him to give an overview of the current forecast and the tracks for these storms. Andy?
Hey, thank you, Brian. Again, I'm Andy Patrick. I'm the meteorologist in charge of the National Weather Service in Lake Charles. We have a really great staff working on both Tropical Storm Marco and Tropical Storm Laura. Let me wrap up talking a little bit about Tropical Storm Marco. Marco is actually moving towards the southeast Louisiana coast and is actually forecasted to move west as a very weak tropical depression. We're not really expecting any weather impacts for southwest Louisiana with that. In fact, the National Hurricane Center, it will likely be dropping probably a lot of the advisories on this sometime later today or tonight. So it looks like it's going to be weakening below tropical storm status. Now our attention turns to Tropical Storm Marco. It's moving through just west of Cuba. It's actually a tropical storm. Its latest is around 55 to 60 miles per hour on the initial wind speed. As far as the track for Laura, we're looking at it moving into the southern Gulf of Mexico sometime during the day Tuesday. And at that time, it could occur as early as tonight, but certainly during the day Tuesday, it will likely become a hurricane. The track now then takes it up northwest, and really, again, we have very wide range of scenarios, but the current forecast actually has it coming into southwest Louisiana as a hurricane, potentially, well, a Category 2 hurricane, potentially up to a Category 3 hurricane, and that will be sometime Wednesday night into Thursday morning. So what are we going to expect from that? Well, first tomorrow, it looks like tomorrow we'll have maybe a small chance of showers and thunderstorms. We're not really going to be seeing any tropical impacts. The main time where the weather is going to start going downhill is particularly late in the day Wednesday, and certainly Wednesday night into Thursday. We potentially could see hurricane force winds begin to pick up during the night time hours on Wednesday and linger into Thursday morning. So when I say hurricane force winds, in excess of 75 miles per hour, certainly possible, and even higher gusts. And the gusts could potentially approach 100 miles per hour as well. So we're going to really see probably some pretty significant wind impacts, if not here, just somewhere around the region as far as the wind's impacts are concerned. Question comes about regarding storm surge. Storm surge is going to be a problem as well. We're expecting 10 to 15 foot above ground level for the maximum storm surge, and it looks like it will come in likely during the high tide, which will be Thursday morning, and then there'll be another high tide. So the water levels will likely be pretty high at the 10 to 15 foot level, and that will certainly impact areas along the Calcasieu River as well. Other impacts will include heavy rain. We're expecting 5 to 10 inches of rain, locally 15 inches, and that will likely be more in narrow rain bands that occur. Some areas may receive less than that, and if the areas particularly further west of the storm, far less than that. But really, we're going to probably be expecting more of the higher amounts along any sort of rain band that develops along with it. And finally, possible tornadoes as well, either with the rain band or actually within the potential eye of Laura as it moves ashore. So again, just to summarize, we're about 60 hours out, and again, the track forecast could shift either way, and certainly a lot of impacts could shift that way as well. So it's best to just stay on top of this as best you can. Right now, I would say Wednesday night, Thursday, expect potential hurricane conditions and certainly a major storm surge and potential heavy rain threat.
Any questions for Andy? Thank you, Andy. With that forecast, of course, each storm we've learned over the years is different, and the impacts depend on that particular storm. And so what we're going to do is have Dick Grimion, Emergency Preparedness Director, go through some of the possible impacts here and help us decide what actions may be needed. So at this time, I'd like to bring up Dick Grimion.
Thank you, Brian. We just heard Andy describe the weather characteristics of particularly Laura. We're not too worried about Marco now. It appears to be going the other way. But one of the things that the public wants their public officials to do is to give them advice when we get into a situation like this. And this is really sort of a risk management situation. We have to weigh out, is it safe to stay at home? Should you go? That depends a lot on what your situation is, but we're going to give you advice on this storm. We think it would be safe for most people to stay at their homes. We have the specter of COVID that we have to think about. If we take people from their individual homes and put them in a congregate setting, there's a good chance that that may help spread the disease, and we certainly don't want to do that anymore. We are, however, giving some advice for people, particularly ones that live in storm surge areas. You may be living in a travel trailer right now, maybe a mobile home that's not strapped down, or some other sort of housing where you would be afraid to stay there. We're asking that you voluntarily evacuate. And that helps out because if you stay, we're going to have to come check on you after the storm passes. So that's a public safety issue. We will be, as things progress, we'll be giving more advice. We'll have a graphic later today to illustrate the storm surge area. But basically, you're talking about south of Goche Road in the Lake Charles area and south of Global Road in the Carlos area. Everything south of there should be considering evacuation. We'll have some further information later in the day, but for now, that's my report. Any questions?
Can you talk a little bit about the uncertainty at this point? It seems like I'm having flashbacks to Rita, where it took a turn that was not expected toward last minute?
Well, I think Andy covered that. There is probably going to be some wobble, in the forecast track. Obviously, if it goes further east of us, that would be good because it would lessen the wind impact for sure, and probably the storm surge as well. Right now, it's just it's too early to say. There's a couple more days, and as Andy pointed out, their forecast track gets better as we get closer to landfall. So maybe by tomorrow we'll have a clearer picture of what's going to happen. But for right now, we're going to have to go with what we've got currently. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dick. Just to restate, each case is different. In this one, it's a voluntary evacuation, and it really depends. Your decisions as a public depend on your particular situation. So how does this come about, these recommendations? Just a reminder for the public. We have a group that has been active really going back to Rita and before, called the Executive Policy Group. That is made up of the police jury president from Calcasieu Parish, all 6 mayors, we have 6 municipalities in Calcasieu Parish, and the sheriff. We've been meeting regularly. We met as early or as recent as this morning on this issue, hearing directly from the Weather Service and discussing the possible impacts to come up with that recommendation that Mr. Grimion touched on. We do want to hear from some of those officials directly, however, and they will cover various aspects of what they deal with. And so let's start with Police Jury President Tony Gilry.
Thank you, Brian. I'm Calcasieu Parish Police Jury President Tony Gilry. We will continue to monitor both Margot and Laura. We will meet with the community leaders to deliver a consistent message to the public and keep everyone well informed. We have already started preparing for any impacts that the storms may bring. We will have responsive and recovery efforts ready to go when needed and when it is safe, but residents should please do their best to prepare. We're urging residents to make necessary preparation in case we are impacted by either one of these storms. Make sure that you have your basic supplies, your food, water, prescription, medicine, or anything else that you need to shelter in place for a few days. Thank you all, and please stay safe during this time, and may God bless.
Next, we would like to hear from Calcasieu Parish Sheriff Tony Mancuso.
Well, if I can lighten the mood a little bit, COVID is something that is new to all of us. But I can assure the public that in this scenario, we know what we're doing, and we have had lots of practice at it. And I don't want to say we've perfected it, but I feel like you can be rest assured we know what we're doing, and we're all on the same page. Your chiefs are on the same page. Your mayors are on the same page. Dick and the police jury. We unfortunately know how to do this, so we're going to get through this, and we're going to get through it efficiently. I think what people need to understand right now when we say voluntary evacuation, these people that have low-lying areas that are prone to flood during events like this need to pay attention and need to have a plan right now, not Wednesday or Thursday, but right now of what they're going to do and where they're going to go and how they're going to react to this. People that live in trailers or unsecured, travel trailers, things like that, need to have a plan and decide whether they feel they're safe. Every one of us know our personal safety, so we need to decide right now a plan of action of what we're going to do and where we're going to go and how we're going to implement that plan. That's what we've been doing. That's what we've been doing now for since Friday, when these storms even started culminating and we were looking at them. Your sheriff's office was enacting a plan of what we were going to do at different stages. We're going to have high water vehicles available. We're going to have rescue crews available. We're going to have all the assets available to help you and take care of you. But we need you to help you take care of yourselves too. Like I said, we've been through these before. You know what to do. We're just here as an asset for you, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to protect you. We're going to protect your homes if you choose to leave. I've asked the police jury. I've talked with all the chiefs, or at least in text. We've communicated, and we will be in close communication. We'll probably starting Wednesday evening, because of the possibility of major power outages, have a curfew. So start thinking about those issues. If you're an essential worker, and you don't have to start calling, everyone knows who an essential worker is. People that work at our power plants, at our industries, at our hospitals. Those people will have to be on the roads and get back and forth. And all you need is your credentials from your from your business. Everybody has credentials from their own work. That's the only special credentials you need is what you have. So those are the things that you need to start thinking about. Our industries are prepared. They know what to do during these circumstances. They know what personnel they're going to keep on staff and things like that. So we want to limit when the traffic lights and the electricity start going out. We want to make sure that people understand we do that for your safety. We're not doing it, I'm very reluctant to call for any type of mandated stay-at-home order. But in this particular case, when power starts to go out, it becomes unsafe for you, the public. And that's why we do a dusk to dawn type of lockdown on our community. It's not because, we're looking for anything to happen. We don't want you to run into a tree, as we know from past storms. When the lights go out and it gets dark, it's pretty bad out there. So we're doing this for your safety and the safety of our public for no other reason. So be prepared for that. That should start Wednesday, unless this storm takes a turn for the better and spares us the problems that we could have. But this is what we're preparing for right now, and I want you to be prepared for and ready for. Again, you, the public, are ultimately the most responsible for your personal safety. You need to find out for you and your family what you feel is best for you, and make those decisions right now what you're going to do. I've heard people in past storms that said, I'll never do that again. And I've had people that left and came back and their home was fine, said, I'm not leaving next time. You know what? Ultimately, that's going to be your choice. And we're going to be here for you. But there will be a time where your public safety people, like the sheriff's office and ambulances and hospitals, will shut down momentarily. So think about those things. Think about the time that you're going to be without electricity possibly. Could it be 2 days? Could it be a week? If you're comfortable with that and you can sustain yourself for that, then you're probably going to be okay. But you need to figure all that out right now and decide what you're going to do. So, we're here. I don't know, Teresa, if you have any questions, but
If there are people right now who feel as though they're in a vulnerable area and that they can't move themselves or they don't have any family who can help them, what advice would you have for them? And I didn't know if you wanted to say anything about that window of time when it will be too dangerous for your guys to come rescue somebody.
so there's several questions there. There's a question of what's going to happen if you don't feel like, and I think we can address that probably better tomorrow. Is that correct, Brian and Dick? And I think the mayor may kind of address that too. I think we'll have a better understanding of that tomorrow morning. As far as what was the other part of the question? You asked about basically if they can't leave and have no means, what they would do. I think we will address that tomorrow. Oh,
Right,
the timeline. I would say based on, again, what the weather experts have told us, we can expect strong winds in the evening hours of Wednesday into early Thursday morning, and to last about a 6 to 8 hour period. So, that's why I said dusk to dawn Wednesday through Thursday. I think that's the window right there. And then we'll decide how long we leave that based on whether we get power restored quickly or whether it's going to be a couple days, a week. But it's not safe when we have no power for people to be on the roads just going freely because the lights aren't working. There could be debris in the roadway. So we have to make sure that we mitigate all those circumstances and fix that before we can allow the public to get out on the streets, again, unless it's absolutely necessary. So I'm basing on what the meteorologists are telling us, that window is, late Wednesday evening into Thursday morning hours.
But I mean, will there be a point where it's too dangerous for deputies to go, rescue someone who should have left earlier?
Again, that should be in that same time period. Once the maximum sustained winds get above 40 miles an hour, then that is when we try to, we get our people off the street and we stop. Sustained winds of 40 miles an hour. And that I'm assuming would be probably between, my best, just based on what we've heard, probably 7, 8, 9 o'clock to 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning Thursday morning. Wednesday evening, give or take an hour or two either way.
And do you anticipate having to move any of the inmates in the jail?
Yes, we are moving some of our inmates right now, some of our, in our women's prison, that the wind rating for that is not quite as strong as some of the other brick and mortar type buildings. So we are moving approximately 300 prisoners. We're not going to talk about where and how we're doing that, but yes, we are moving some prisoners based on what we're hearing right now. And that's really just as a precautionary measure. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Sheriff. We will next hear from Mayor Nick Hunter, Lake Charles.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning, everyone. As was stated, the terminology voluntary evacuation is what we're talking about right now. And I think the sheriff also made an excellent point when he used the word choice. And right now, it's time for citizens of Lake Charles and Calcasieu Parish to make some personal choices and have some very in-depth conversations with your families about what you want to do for you and your family. We're always careful not to compare storms to other storms, and I think Andy with the Weather Service said it wonderfully to us about an hour ago that every storm has its own DNA. However, I want to encourage the public to keep in your mind a couple themes as you have these very intense and difficult conversations. A lot of us do remember the aftermath of Rita. And while this storm is different than Rita, there is the real chance of a loss of power. And there is the real chance of a loss of water service. Some of those essential needs are essential to different people in varying degrees. And there are some people who stayed during Rita who afterwards said, I wouldn't do that again. And at this moment, if you're having those conversations with your family, I want you to think about the idea of leaving for 2 or 3 days and perhaps having this storm weaken or take a turn for the worse, and then in 2 or 3 days saying, well, you know what, we didn't really need to leave, let's go home. Versus in 2 or 3 days, the possibility that this could be a storm that does cause some damage to the Lake Charles area, a loss of power, perhaps an extended loss of power, perhaps an extended loss of water service, and then you saying in 2 or 3 days, boy, I wish we would have left. And so those are a couple of the messages that we really want people to be thinking about. There's a couple other aspects of when you are thinking about evacuating. Certainly, weather is the main one of when is it too late to leave because of the weather. The other thing is traffic, and that's something a lot of us remember from other hurricanes and other storms. Today is Monday, and if you're thinking strongly about making those moves, today is probably the best day to do it. I do want to stress that for people, and we do know that there are going to be some people in Southwest Louisiana, Lake Charles, Calcasieu Parish, who perhaps want to leave, who maybe don't feel safe at their homes, don't have the means to get themselves to another location, or don't have friends or family where they can stay. We are in constant contact right now with the state of Louisiana, and we are very confident that sometime this afternoon we will have the resolution for those individuals. But I want people to know that that is very much on our minds. We realize that not everyone in Lake Charles and not everyone in Calcasieu Parish can just pick themselves up and evacuate. So for those individuals who do feel like they do want to get out of their low-lying area, if their house is flooded before, or if perhaps they're in a mobile home and they want to evacuate, I assure the public that we're having those conversations right now with the state, and a resolution will be forthcoming. Specifically, we want to encourage people that whether you're leaving or staying, secure your home. There are items in your front yards or backyards that could be lawn furniture or toys for the kids. Those things can clog up drains. They can become projectiles. Garbage cans left at the road can certainly be swept away with water, and those can become projectiles as well. City services will be closed tomorrow, Tuesday, and Wednesday, other than essential personnel. So things like garbage pickup, transit, those will not be taking place tomorrow and Wednesday. We're encouraging individuals, as you're having these conversations with your family and friends, if you have elderly members of your family or elderly neighbors, just give a courtesy call to those individuals. Check up on them. Make sure they know what's going on. Make sure they're aware of the most recent developments. And lastly, a couple local resources that I want to strongly encourage people to pay attention to. I am very impressed with our local U.S. National Weather Service Lake Charles, Louisiana Facebook page. They have very concise and easy to understand weather briefings that they do, I think, twice a day for the general public. I want to give a shout out to, I think Donald Jones is his name. He does an excellent job. And for a layman like myself, who's not a meteorologist, to hear him talk about the weather is very reassuring, because I think you get a very clear image and picture of what's going on. So the U.S. National Weather Service Lake Charles, Louisiana Facebook page is an amazing service. And then also getagameplan.org. That's an excellent place to find out information, most up-to-date information on weather events, but also how to prepare you and your family. With that, I'll open it up if there are any questions.
I was just thinking maybe there are people new to the area over the, since Rita and all, and is there anything to be said about recommended evacuation routes?
I would yield to DOTD on that. I'm not going to claim to be a traffic expert on evacuation routes, but I would encourage people that have never been through a hurricane before to remember a couple things. We have been through these before as local governmental agencies. The coordination and the teamwork behind the scenes is very real, and it's very intense right now. And locally, we are on the same page, and we're going to do what's best for the safety of our citizens. Secondly, hurricanes are very real, and they can become a threat, and things can change quickly. So if you've never been through one before, please stay up to date with the news. All right? Thank you.
Teresa, as it regards evacuation routes, the recommended evacuation routes in southwest Louisiana are Highway 109, Highway 27, Highway 171, and Highway 165. I-10 is not an evacuation route. Obviously, you could run into conflicts with Texas or with people, commerce moving up and down the highway. So those state highways are our recommended evacuation routes.
All right, I just want to make a couple of announcements on behalf of the parish. I know Mayor Hunter discussed Lake Charles, and we would ask all residents if you live in one of the cities, please contact their offices or visit their webpage as to their openings over the next couple of days in trash service and so forth. In our case, at the police jury, the parish government, we do also plan to close our offices Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. That's beginning tomorrow. Our solid waste convenience centers, we have already closed for the duration of this. And so we're asking folks just to hold off on that. Waste Management is our garbage contractor, and they have advised us that they will run routes tomorrow, Tuesday, and Wednesday. However, due to the expected timing of this storm, they will be unable to do that Thursday. So more to come as this storm develops. But again, garbage collection in the unincorporated areas will continue tomorrow and Wednesday, but not Thursday. That concludes our briefing for today. There will be another weather update at 4 o'clock. We do not have a public briefing scheduled for later today. That will likely be tomorrow at this time, but we will send out a media release to announce that. But we do want to before we wrap it up, if there are any other questions on any aspect that we've covered or haven't covered.
We are getting some inquiries from people in other parishes, and I know in the past, sometimes you guys have invited people from like Cameron and some nearby parishes, since they may not have a mechanism for having a briefing like this. Can you enlighten us on that?
Do you have information, Dick, on that?
Yeah, we can arrange for
Dick Grimman will come up. I will say this. If there is somebody from an adjacent parish that wants to get information out, we certainly will let them know. We have, because Cameron Parish is always sooner affected by these than even we are, we've actually been working with them. I know the sheriff's office is actually helping them host a temporary place up here for those folks. And at the parish level, some of their officials in Cameron are actually going to be stationed up here in our parish offices for this event. So there is a lot of cooperation. We will make that available to them if they wish to get a public announcement out.
Yeah, just to reiterate what Brian said, we're in contact, particularly with the OEP office in Cameron, a couple of times a day. And they, of course, have called for a voluntary evacuation for the parish down there. And we do have plans to host the OEP office here if necessary.
Okay, any other questions? All right, that will wrap up this public briefing, and look for another announcement for the next public briefing tomorrow. Thank you.